Okay. Should have had a notification to say that's going to happen, because people do catch up with the sessions post the event, so that's why they're doing that. Yeah, good, great to see you here. Let's make a start. So in case you've not met before, my name is David Reeder. I'm one of the strategic advisors at London Sport, particularly in relation to workforce. And I'll be sort of the host for today in terms of this session about the two topics we're going to look at. Our general outline for today is this. I'm just going to do a little bit of talking at the beginning, and then I'm going to hand over to Sophie from Access Sport, who's going to talk about a really interesting project she's been doing in the last 12 months around volunteering, and how she's been using the project to engage a wider section of the population into volunteering. Then we're going to take a little bit of a break, just 5 minutes, and then we'll be joined by Ollie Holt from Nimble, who's going to talk about the digital marketing hub he's been working on behalf of SIMSPA, and how that's a real resource for maybe yourselves, but also the workforce you might be working with. And then I've got a short bit at the end around the Sport England Together Fund, particularly in relation to potential funding for workforce projects next year. So I'll be sort of giving you some information around that. So that's our broad outline. The timings are approximate, so we'll see how we go. I always start with this because I know there's new people with us, but just to outline what the Sport and Physical Activity Workforce Network is. We just want to try and support the workforce as best we can at London Sport, and particularly the workforce leaders, and that could hopefully that's you. And that means as a leader, you either rely on a band of volunteers or a set of staff, but you either employ, deploy, recruit, coordinate, you rely on them to deliver some of the activity you've got. So that's what the network's about. It's about supporting you to support them. What's the network about? It's actually been going a year now. I look back at the first date, and it was November this time last year. So we've been running a year. It's about providing insight and support through workforce-related talks, presentations, and workshops. It's about offering a platform to share and discuss ideas and explore workforce sector issues. Discussions on future opportunities for the workforce. And it also provides you an opportunity to shape the future activity as well. But really, what we're trying to do is provide practical ways in which you can personally develop and become a better workforce leader. If you look at the QR code on the right-hand side there, if you've not been before, that's where the workforce content is held. And if you want to see past sessions or see today's slides at a later date, the QR code will take you straight there, as well as the links that also appear from time to time. Who can get involved? Well, anyone can get involved really, but it's particularly aimed at those who are responsible for sport and physical activity workforce, as I've said, whether it's volunteers or paid staff. Again, it's about whether you coordinate, recruit, or deploy a workforce. Maybe those who've got a special interest in workforce issues, or maybe those who are seeking to develop a career in this area. So just a little bit of involvement, first of all, before we kick off into Sophie's session. I just want to take a couple of temperature checks, if that's okay, seeing how people are seeing events as we come back from the pandemic. I've got a quick poll for you here, which I just would like you to answer, which is a simple question. It's around returning to in-person events. So this network was originally designed to be in person before the pandemic. We was all meant to come into the House of Sport and discuss and network with each other, share ideas. But of course, that didn't happen. And we're online, and we're still online. But I just want to get a sense of how people are feeling, about how people are going about their work and their activity. So it's not that poll. He says. Not that one. sorry, apologies for that. I can't find the poll, but I'll come back to it later. It should be there, but it's not there. I'll come back to that later. But I do have a second one, which I'm going to present to you, a second question in terms of a temper check. So this is what I want you to have a think about now is in the chat, which I'm going to put up now. And I'm just going to... So in the chat now, I've just pasted a link for everybody. I would really appreciate it if you could spend literally 2 minutes. You can click on the link and interested to know some of the most pressing issues that we're facing in some of our workforce related activities. So if you just go into the chat, click on the link and just give me your feedback of those 2 issues. Really appreciate it. And when you've done that, can you give me a thumbs up? Have we done that? If my people managed to just complete that for me, they're going to use it. Great. Thank you very much. Do appreciate that. It's a bit of an insight for us. Thanks, everybody, for taking part. Thanks for that. Thank you. Okay, so now I'm about to hand over to Sophie. Please, she's joined us today to tell us about the project she's been doing. As we know, volunteering is really important to the sector. It's always been really important. It still is important. And as well as it offering great benefits for our ability to deliver activity, it obviously offers great benefits to the individual as well. And therefore, the more people we can engage in the sector from different sections of the community, the better we will be all around. So yeah, really delighted to welcome Sophie and hand over to her.
Thanks, David, and thank you so much for having me this morning. Hi, everyone. My name's Sophie. I'm the Development Manager at Access Sport. So I work on our Disability Inclusion Programme in London, but also lead on our volunteering programme. And today I'm here to talk to you about a project we've been delivering called Team 100. You may have seen bits and pieces kind of shared with our last impact report shared in one of the London sports newsletters. But I'm here today to talk to you about how we delivered that project to reach underrepresented groups to encourage and empower them to volunteer. So should you have any questions, I'm happy to take some questions at the end of my session. But if you have any questions, please feel free to also put them in the chat box. And if I don't answer them today, I will make a note and I will ensure that I put together the answers that David will be able to circulate to everybody at the end. So yeah, hope you enjoyed kind of listening to some of the key learnings that we've kind of developed and taken from the last few years of our project. And yeah, really excited to talk to you about it. Next slide, please, David. Thank you. So today's session, just a quick kind of overview of what we're going to cover. So I'll give you a little bit of an introduction about us at Access Sport. So if you have or haven't heard about us before, and just some of the work that we're doing at the moment across the country and specifically in London. We'll touch a little bit on the volunteering landscape and the current need for more inclusive volunteering and how we were able to develop our proposal and find out what was happening in those areas to ensure that, you know, volunteering was more representative. I'll give you a Team 100 overview, just kind of a snapshot in terms of what the project was about, and talk you through kind of our key headlines of the stats that we've kind of collated over the last few years. We'll also just talk to you through about the diversity of the volunteers through the project, a little bit about our activators, and just some kind of importance of diversity to the volunteers themselves. And then we'll just kind of look at the learnings and our next steps and what we're doing to move forward. Next slide, please, David. So yes, as I mentioned, I work for Access Sport, and we are a sports inclusion charity with inclusion very much a central value to what we do across our work. So we are based in London, Bristol, Manchester and Oxford, and we work from a bottom-up approach. So we work very much in the heart of all of the communities, but we also work strategically with partners to ensure that there is sector change and that nobody is excluded from community sport. So our vision is ensuring that everybody has the same opportunity to participate and no one is excluded from taking part in activity based on gender, ethnicity, background, religion, socioeconomic status. And to ensure that we meet our vision, we upskill, train and support coaches, volunteers, clubs and community organisations, and support them so that they have all the knowledge and resources to reach those most in need. This allows those clubs, groups and organisations to unleash the untapped potential of community organisations to transform more lives and communities through sport. We then turn our learnings into toolkits so that our models can be replicated, which is very much something that we're doing through our Team 100 project. Sustainability is a real driving force through our work, and through all of the work that we develop and we deliver, we want to ensure that there is local ownership. This is a really important aspect, and we embed these kind of learnings within our communities. And we also truly believe in collaboration and partnership, working and sharing this together. We're all working towards the same goals and the same vision, and we really want to be able to work and support others to really ensure that inclusion is very much at the heart of everybody. And volunteering itself is very central to all of our work. So we have different programs that we run. We have our cycling inclusion program, we have our disability inclusion program, and our social inclusion program. But volunteering is very much the key thread that underpins everything across those programs. So when we work with community clubs, volunteers are at the heart of those community clubs. So we want to ensure, and following from the Team 100 project, our key mission at the moment is to ensure that volunteering represents and reflects each community, and ensures that, as well as the participants that we're reaching out to, no one is excluded from volunteering, and everyone from every background also has the same opportunity to volunteer. Next slide, please, David. So this is the current need taken from the Sport England Active Lives survey in 2009 and the Sport England Volunteering Insight report taken from last year of the current volunteering landscape at the moment. So we can see that at the moment, 6 million adults volunteer every year in sport and physical activity. 11% of sports volunteers are from low socioeconomic backgrounds. Only 13% of deaf and disabled people volunteer compared to 21% of the population who have a disability. 42% of females volunteer compared to men, and 84% of volunteers are white British. So this demonstrates that the landscape looks like and is clearly not diverse or representative of lots of different communities. And this is because particular groups of people are underrepresented in sport because of different barriers and challenges, which may include access, opportunities, support with any additional needs, transport, links and connections to qualifications. And volunteering in sport, I think, is quite unique because sport is very much reliant on volunteers who are an integral part to those clubs. Following the pandemic, we saw a massive rise in volunteering. It was reported throughout the year about how lots of people would volunteer to support COVID delivery and COVID response. But coming out of that pandemic, I think we're still, and again, I'm sure lots of people have the same still similar learnings or maybe some different learnings about how volunteering looks now. It's more of a hybrid approach. People's commitments have changed, and people are still very understandably very anxious about volunteering. So again, it's being able to still how we can reach out to all of those different communities. So yeah, there's always been a need in the landscape of volunteering to ensure that we reach lots of different people, to encourage them to take part and have the same opportunities to volunteer. Next slide, please, David. So Team 100 is our volunteering project. It was funded by Sport England from 2018 to 2021. And the aim of the Team 100 project was to empower and motivate volunteers from underrepresented communities to volunteer with their community sports clubs in their area. We launched our project in 3 areas. So we launched our project in Burgess Park in Southwark, Charlton in Greenwich, and Easton in Bristol, where we had already been working in these areas through some of our other inclusive work that we were already delivering as part of our programme. We already knew the need of each area as they were included in the top 10% of the indices of deprivation. We understood the demographics of the community from different reports, including the percentage of the population in those areas from ethnically diverse communities, how many disabled people were there, and the percentage of women, as well as researching other information about how many people were in employment and how many people in those areas had qualifications. We also did research about the different demographic groups and volunteering, and understood that ethnically diverse communities attributed their lack of volunteering in sports to a lack of opportunities. We found that women and girls often feel sidelined in community sport, which is reflected in fewer females volunteering. And equally, we knew from our inclusion work that deaf and disabled people often face multiple disadvantages. Disabled people have historically been excluded from community work and social opportunities, and this has resulted in a greater dependency on the social care system. So lots of information that we had kind of gathered into why there was very much a need to deliver this project. We then created our 3 teams, so Team 100 Burgess Park, Team 100 Charlton, and Team 100 Easton, to really kind of develop this project. And the idea of Team 100 is that our target was to engage 300 volunteers, and that was a team of 100 in each area, which then would be locally and sustainably owned by those communities. We felt that by creating this team as a brand would attract more individuals to volunteer, but also establish meaningful opportunities for them. And I think that was a really important aspect about creating those really meaningful opportunities. Our team of volunteers not only included the volunteers themselves, so those that were coaching in sessions or assisting or doing administration support, we included the team and encompassed a matrix which we created that involved the councillors, local MPs, voluntary service councils, clubs and organisations, lots of different groups, local champions and influencers, key people in the community to really embed this project. Next slide, please, David. So a few key headlines from our 3-year project. So we engaged 280 volunteers across those 3 areas. It was important to engage lots of traditional and non-traditional sports clubs and groups. So we had football clubs, rugby clubs that were working with us to increase more volunteering opportunities. But we also had yoga, we had walking for health groups. So there was a really great mix of different sports clubs and community groups that were involved in part of our project. Very much each area was very hyper-local. And this was a really key driver behind how we really created a team in that area and really engaged so many different community groups. This hyper-local effect helped us really reach hard-to-reach groups. So, for example, we reached I'll mention them a little bit later, but we really developed and connected with a fantastic women's Somali group in Bristol, and being able to kind of have this hyperlocal effect really helped us to develop those trusted relationships with lots of different groups, and not only share the different volunteering opportunities, work with them to reach lots of different volunteers and individuals so we could really ensure everybody was represented. And it also allowed us to engage and enable people to understand what volunteering was and ensure that they knew what the purpose of the kind of the project was and what we were trying to do. So just a few more stats there. We had 57% of female volunteers, which was really fantastic. Over 6,000 hours of volunteers that really supported throughout the project. 28% of volunteers living in the most 20% of deprived areas. So a really good kind of mix of different groups that we were able to really engage and support during this project. Next slide, please, David. So how we empowered more representative volunteers. So we already had only some existing relationships to build on in those areas based on our previous programs, and had to really explain to some people what the role and purpose of our project was. We worked a little bit on our branding, so it was really recognized visually, but also what was our vision as part of our project. And being able to work with those clubs to help them to kind of understand we want to reach more underrepresented communities to empower them to volunteer. Some clubs and groups took a while to understand how and why we were trying to help, and this was the same for some of the individuals and volunteers themselves. For example, the Somali group I was mentioning about in Easton and Bristol, they were looking for more support with volunteers, but previously organisations that they had connected with hadn't gotten to know them as a group, and in their words said that they were working with them as a tick box exercise. We really developed a meaningful relationship with them where they knew and could see how we were supporting them in every way, to really, one, empower their group of females to volunteer and support their activities and sessions that they were running, but also to reach out to other females within the community to advertise the different volunteering roles with different areas of expertise that they were looking for support with. We also understood the needs of the area. So we knew from consultations and meetings with groups and individuals that we had very early into our project and just before, and with our activators, who I'll touch on shortly, that there were some communities that didn't understand what volunteering was, or felt that by helping, by those individuals helping, they felt that they would lose their benefits. So we had really fantastic conversations with our activators who were very much embedded within the community, and there were different groups and cultures of individuals who volunteering is not something that they knew of or knew what it was or why they would do it, and understand the reasons as to why they would volunteer. And one of those reasons, people felt was actually, if I volunteer, I'm going to lose the benefits that I have. So actually, I'm not going to do that. Another group that we're working with in Charlton, we really built a really fantastic volunteer mums group where mums were inspiring other mums to get their children active. Some of those mums, again, possibly from a cultural perspective, but didn't understand, why would I give all of my time and not be paid? Why would I contribute all of these kind of hours across a week and a weekend to do all of these great things, but I'm not being paid for my time? So it was really trying to, again, work with individuals to talk about what volunteering was, not necessarily use the word volunteer. And again, it's kind of that effect where you see somebody doing something and you want to help out, and you may not know that you're necessarily volunteering as such, because that's a different term that we may use. But then, got involved and really got those intrinsic and integral benefits of what volunteering was. And because of this hyper-local method that we had, where we connected with the local MPs, the local community groups, really helped to then engage and reach so many different hard-to-reach groups. Our brand became recognizable, so both volunteers and groups and local authorities started to kind of recognize and notice the Team 100 logo and the marketing materials that we were putting together, and were starting to really actively share what our message was and help us reach more individuals. And we were all working towards the same goal, where we wanted to reach and empower more underrepresented volunteers. We also supported volunteers to get training and upskill. So we had funding within our project to pay for training and qualifications for some of those volunteers. So some volunteers did safeguarding courses and first aid courses. Other volunteers did activator courses. It's just an introduction to sport. A couple of volunteers actually did level one national governing body qualifications. Some we paid to do like funding courses where they were learning to kind of do fundraising and how to write funding bids. So we really felt by giving back to the volunteers and giving them the access and opportunity to upskill and train really helped them to kind of be within their role and support the sustainability of their role as well. For an example, we worked with a disabled group in Bristol in Easton, and they wanted to set up the Walking for Health sessions to empower more deaf and disabled people to walk or to use chairs and frames to take part in those sessions. But they wanted, disabled volunteers to kind of lead those sessions. And what was really nice about this is those disabled volunteers who maybe had not previously had access to first aid courses, some of them were unable to take part in those courses previously because those providers had said previously, because you use a wheelchair, you wouldn't be able to take part in this first aid course because you won't be able to do X, Y, and Z. We worked with first aid groups to ensure that all insurances were in place. Those individuals were able to still upskill and take part, and then were able to be empowered to lead those groups and sessions. And then that's just a fantastic way of then inspiring and motivating other deaf and disabled people who take part in those sessions to see volunteers represented so that they can inspire to do the same. So that's also helped engage more volunteers into leadership positions and create kind of that role model effect. Next slide, please, David. So another really key and integral part of our project was activators. So we have 3 activators that were one based in each area, so in Burgess Park, Charlton and Easton. And through our project, we had some funding to pay them one day a week for a period of time. And through that project, we felt it was really important to have an activator, or very similarly, a community champion who was passionate and shared the same values as us as a project and as an organisation, and wanted to do more. They were already volunteering and already doing fantastic things within their community and very driven to make change. But they also had lots of fantastic connections and understanding of their local area. So they understood the different audiences that lived and the different demographics that lived in their area, and also had some great connections already with existing groups. And for those groups and those individuals to see a local represented person from their community getting in touch and doing all of these fantastic things was just one way where they were really inspired to support and to help. And there's a really fantastic quote from a Sustrans report from a couple of years ago about giving and supporting an activator or community champion, where you give you pay someone for a little bit of their time and they give you back so much more. And that is a really, really fantastic way of empowering so many different people. And one of the key learnings from this project definitely was working with our activators. We knew by working together, we regularly got together as a group virtually because of the pandemic, but we shared learnings with each other, and what worked in one area didn't necessarily work in another area. So what worked in Bristol, where in Easton they are extremely community focused, lots of fantastic out there and fast thinking groups that really kind of are very driven to strive towards their community. In Charlton, it was a little bit harder to find groups and connect those groups together. So we learned where the different learnings were and what worked in some areas and what worked in different areas. And although there were commonalities between the demographic groups that we were working with, again, there were some differences as well. We very much talked about kind of language and ensuring that when we were reaching out to volunteers that they were being able to use the right language and speak to those volunteers. But again, we knew what those kind of cultural barriers and challenges may be. And together we were able to kind of think of different ways that we could reach out to those groups and encourage and inspire them to volunteer. They were able to also help the hyperlocal approach and understand the needs of their community. And they were also very representative as a group as well, so other volunteers could look up to them. So our activator in Charlton was a mum from a local school who was doing lots of fantastic things in the community to inspire other mums to take part. And with our support, and by working together, we were able to reach lots more parents and mums to participate. One of the key things as part of our project is, although we were engaging lots of volunteers from lots of different underrepresented groups, we also we had like a key kind of area for each. So in Southwark, we were trying to get empowering more people from ethnically diverse communities to volunteer. From Eastern and Bristol, we were engaging more disabled people to volunteer, as well as other groups of individuals as well. And our key target in Charlton was to engage more mums to volunteer. So by having a local mum who was doing lots of fantastic things in her community already, she was able to share and inspire with other parents and really kind of really get them on board and saying, volunteer, look what we can do together, and look what we can really achieve by working together and getting people active. Next slide, please, David. So the diversity is also important to volunteers, and that's something that we learned through our project. So we commissioned the social impact company to do an external evaluation with our volunteers, and diversity was one of the key themes that came out of those kind of surveys and interviews that they had with those volunteers. So it really demonstrates that volunteers from different backgrounds inspire more people to volunteer from the same background as well. So we can see that in one of the quotes there, somebody said, these individuals are being able to connect and give so much. So in a way, they are like our role models for others in the community. So going back to the Walking for Health group that was running in Bristol called Roll and Stroll, excuse me. We could see that by disabled volunteers volunteering and leading those sessions, other people taking part in that group knew that it was possible for them to be able to volunteer as well. Also, volunteers said that they felt more confident when volunteering when they were supported in a group. They started to understand what volunteering was and why we volunteer, and the cultural kind of implications of that. But they were also able to share their experiences and their knowledge and their skills. Next slide, please, David. So the overall learnings by having a diverse workforce, and I appreciate we've got lots of people on the call today where you may be from clubs and groups or coaching organisations, or from charitable organisations, or from other community groups. I think the learnings are very similar, where having a diverse group of volunteers is really, really key. And although you may not have like an activator, I think it's important to think about who's our volunteer coordinator. If I'm a community or grassroots club, who is the person that's going to be the one that supports those volunteers or reaches out to volunteers from different communities? So a few learnings from just where diversity is important. By having a diverse group of volunteers brings different skills, experiences and knowledge. It also creates a longer sustainable workforce. There's been research to show that there's a lower turnover if we have a diverse workforce. As we've mentioned a couple of times today, it helps volunteers to be role models in similar groups. It enhances the wider awareness of the club as well. So by having volunteers in different positions and in different roles from different demographic groups, it really kind of shares that awareness and wider learning amongst participants, other parents or other volunteers, committee members. So it's a really fantastic way to really bring groups together. It demonstrates the club is being representative of the wider community. You'll have more confidence from those participants or service users or beneficiaries taking part from different backgrounds. And obviously we have like that more kind of inclusive profile, which we're all kind of striving towards. And ways that we can do that, just kind of things that we can talk about, is building trusted relationships. So again, whether that's like a key volunteer coordinator or someone that's driving your volunteering strategy, or just some of those learnings that you're trying to do to engage more more inclusive groups. By building those trusted relationships and really listening to them and working with them, it is really key. And that can take time. It's not something that happens quite quickly. So I think it's really important to bear in mind that that can take a bit of time, but that really relates to meaningful relationships. providing support for those individuals. So if that individual needs additional support or hasn't got anyone that maybe they're able to relate to, what kind of support can we give to that individual to ensure that they've got everything that they need? Have they got somebody that they can speak to? Have they got a buddy? Have they, if they have a disability, have they been spoken to about the access and the support that they're going to be given to get there? Or if they're doing some volunteering from home for you, what kind of extra resource and support can you give them? And having representative photos and language as well. So if you are putting out marketing out there, you know, have you got images where people can relate to? When we're talking about language, is there a word that we should be using away from volunteering so it represents and lands with other groups? Also giving out flyers to lots of different groups or doing things on social media may not reach those groups as well. So is it that we go back to that activator or community champion or volunteer coordinator that goes back in and develops those relationships with those groups that are not necessarily going to see something in the newsletter or online, and really start to help them understand what volunteering is and give them that opportunity to just try a little bit as well. Next slide, please, David. So our next steps and what we're doing at Access Sport. So we've put together our impact report, which I can ask David to kind of send a link around after, which will take you to our website, which will kind of just give you an insight into what we've been doing with volunteering over the last year. So we're now, as Team 100 has come to its funded end, we're still embedding our Team 100 learnings into the wider delivery across our charity. So we're launching a volunteering strategy that's nearly ready to go. So we've got our vision and our mission and our next steps and how we're going to be ensuring that across all of the work that we do with our community clubs, with all of our programs, that we are ensuring that volunteering is inclusive and representative of those communities that those clubs are in. We're creating resources to share and support with our clubs to support their recruitment and management of volunteers. I think it's really important to note that all of these resources already exist with your voluntary service councils, through Sport England, and for our clubs, we know where we're going to take all of those bits of information and really create just like a one-stop guide where they can help support recruiting volunteers from different backgrounds and how to manage and retain them. And we're actually creating a volunteer working group within the charity as well. So we're going to meet every couple of months to really talk about what we can do to ensure that clubs are creating more inclusive opportunities. I think following the pandemic, one of the key learnings is that clubs, groups are very much still focused on participants, because we've definitely seen maybe a decline in people returning to activity in some cases, not in all cases, but also how can we ensure that volunteering is still very much there to ensure that, these clubs don't happen without the support of the volunteer workforce. How can we as groups work to support them creating more inclusive opportunities and taking all of these steps into account? Final slide, please, David. So happy to answer any questions. My information will be on the next slide as well. So should you have any questions, you can email me directly. But I'm happy to open the floor to a couple of questions. And if you do have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat box.
Sophie, thanks very much. Very interesting. Thanks for that. So yeah, if you've got any questions, you can either come off mute and ask them, or you can pop them in the chat and we can pick them up there. I'm going to ask the first one because I'm allowed to. There's a couple of really interesting points I think I pick on there. Is that the one early on you mentioned about how it's important to understand your community, which I totally agree with, but that can be costly. It can be a big exercise. Have you got any simple tips of how how organizations can sort of do that in a sort of light way, but still get some insight into the community a little bit more? Any advice for people on that?
We've tried a few different methods. Surveys go so far. They don't reach maybe the groups that you want them to reach out to, or those groups may not understand why they're receiving something, and they can be maybe time consuming. We've tried drop-in sessions. So before the pandemic, we actually did a couple of drop-in sessions where, again, we advertised we're here to talk about volunteering, and we're here to talk about, you know, we want to welcome you. And that was a really great way where we actually met a few people that would not have come through maybe other platforms that we'd used. And by creating those relationships with housing associations, other smaller charities and community groups in those areas where they're able to really share and network what's happening, that really helped kind of make a reach in terms of let's try that drop-in session. So we did try a couple, and they were quite successful before the pandemic. We then obviously went into a lockdown, and it was actually a very difficult and different time. And appreciate that it does take a little bit of time, but I do think it does take a little bit of commitment to reach out to groups, because that's how we develop those really trusted and meaningful relationships and really share what we're, you know, what volunteering is.
Yeah, absolutely. People have been shy, not coming, so I'm going to ask another one here. What a really interesting point that you mentioned, which I think I may be overlooked, is that term volunteering. We sort of make a big assumption around it, isn't it, that everyone understands what volunteering is, because but everyone doesn't, do they? And sometimes by rephrasing it, by sort of using a different terms of reference, you can turn people onto it. Whereas if you just use the term volunteering, it doesn't always work, does it, with every group?
Yeah, so actually with Burgess Park, so I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with Burgess Park, or actually if anyone's on the call today from any of the clubs or from Burgess Park. But in Burgess Park in Suffolk, it's a really big park with Burgess Sports, who are a fantastic community organisation that deliver lots of fantastic activities to children and young people from the local estate, but also there's lots of other sports clubs that are situated in the park, and they are all reliant on volunteers. And it's in a great place where people walk through the park, and you know, you can kind of spot and see different things that are taking place. But how do you engage those people? And we actually decided that we put up a big banner in the park, but we did not use the word volunteering at all. It was come and get involved, come and help us, or do you want to do this? And that was one way of kind of reaching out to different people. I think, yeah, there's a bit of a stigma sometimes when it comes around volunteering, particularly now, I think, and again, other people may be able to correct me or have different learnings, where you think, I've got to give X amount of time each week or each day, and I don't have capacity to do that. So it's, again, kind of thinking about what are those different ways that we can use language to reach out to different groups, to really connect and make those relationships, to explain, show what's involved. Very much in the, I mean, one of our key learnings from the project, particularly following the COVID period, and something that's referenced in the Sport England Insight report from last year, was about hybrid volunteering. So, you know, if someone's saying, oh, I'm interested in doing this and I can only give this amount of time, champion it and embrace it. And I think that's really important to really reach lots of different groups as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Sophie, that was really, really interesting. Thanks very much. And I think if nothing else, the learning slide is a good takeaway for everybody to sort of just have and to sort of think about before, you know, taking on a project or thinking about a new group you want to try and attract. So really interesting. Thanks very much. Everybody, the slides will be available later on if you want to download those at a later date, and that'll be, I'll send you a link around later. We're moving on to our next section, but before we do that, I'm just going to we're going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to see Ollie in a minute. He's going to talk about the digital marketing, a really interesting new resource for the workforce. So it's a little change in tact and topic, but it's 11:49 by my watch now. If we come back at 11:55, where Ollie will be ready and raring to go. So see you in 5 minutes. That's not a quick leg stretch. Thanks very much. Hello, Ollie.
David.
Well, I had another little poll and I couldn't find it. Didn't pop. This is all technical glitches. It didn't pop up when I tried it. I'm just looking to see where it's gone to, and I used yours. Sorry, but I haven't used yours. But it's a mystery. I don't know.
All right, well, so I'm here and ready. I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a few minutes, yeah. Hi, everybody. We'll start in about 30 seconds. We'll get going again. So if you're back and ready to go. Right, okay, it's 11:55 by my clock, so let's get going again. Welcome back, everybody. So second half now, round two. I found my poll. You'll be absolutely delighted to know. So I'm going to do my poll from before I introduce Ollie. I'm just going to do my poll. So earlier on, I'm just taking a couple of temperature checks, and I just want to do this one now, which is asking about our return to what we call normality. And if you can, I'll just be interested to hear your views about this. So the network was in time intended to be in person, and we've never achieved that. So here's a little question for you. I'm just interested to hear is here. So for the next network session, would you like to attend in person at the House of Sport or attend online? So this is important for me to whether we start doing this, getting back into person, or whether we just stay online. And I think I'm just curious to know what people think about this. So we're talking about next year now. I know it's a bit of crystal ball gazing because we don't know what's going to happen, but let's say we stay the same as we are now, maybe get a little bit better, who knows? So yeah, just what do we think about that? What is your view or preference on this? Just a few more coming in, returning from coffee. You're going to split down the middle here. I can tell what's going to happen. You're not going to help me at all. You're going to completely divide, go down 50-50. Any more last answers to this one? No, it's still coming in, still returning. So for the next network session, would you like to attend in person at the House of Sport or attend online? What is your answer? So I'm just going to end it there and see what the results are. So we've got 50% people who attend in person. We've got about 30% would like to still continue to attend online, and about 15% is not sure. So that's useful. Thanks very much. That is useful. That helps me steer my thinking for the next session. Great. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to take that down. And I'm now going to say hello to Ollie, who's going to do the next session. Ollie, hello. Ollie Holt, who's a private consultant with the firm Nimble, but he's doing quite a considerable piece of work for Simspert around the digital marketing hub. So Ollie, I'm going to say hello and hand over to you.
Thanks very much, David. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, fantastic. And yeah, thanks very much for your introduction, and thanks for the opportunity to come and talk to everyone today. I think we do have a poll hopefully lined up in a second, but my first question, where I'm hoping everyone can just say a yes or no in the chat, is, have you heard about the Digital Marketing Hub already? So in the chat, if you can literally say yes or no, thumbs up or thumbs down, it'd just be good to get a feel. Okay. Some quick yeses, few no's, few yeses. Okay. I reckon we're probably slightly more on the yes than the no. Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. Brilliant. A thumbs up. Thanks very much, Kevin. Okay, so by the end of this, everyone will be up to speed on the Digital Marketing Hub. So you can all say yes if you're asked that question again in the future. But to begin with, and thanks for your contribution on the chat, that's Ace. David, we hopefully have another poll lined up, and this one is a bit more to do with marketing and promotion. So as soon as you're ready, David, if you want to pop it up on the screen. I'm just keen to find out what your biggest marketing or promotion need is on behalf, based on the role that you have and why you're attending today. So if you could choose one of those answers. Top one is to find and engage new people. Second one, to better engage your current audience. Third is to change behavior, e.g. getting people more active, or it could be about workforce, to recruit workforce. Just really interested to see what you all come up with. How are the responses? Are we getting responses in, David?
Oh yeah, I think we're about there. I shall end it in 3, 2, 1 now, and there's your results.
Okay, fantastic. Oh, look at that. We have got two leaders there. So top two are to find and engage new people and to change behavior. Brilliant. And then lower down, to recruit workforce and to better engage with your current audience. Okay, that's at the moment we're really interested in making sure we have a really current sort of a finger on the pulse, a current feel for those kind of the biggest needs that people across sport and physical activity have when it comes to kind of marketing and or promotions. That's fantastic. Would I be able to, I'm just going to screenshot that. Sort of having access to that that's really useful. Thanks very much, everyone. So the Digital Marketing Hub is provided by Simspert, and it's funded by Sport England through National Lottery funding. So it is a free resource for anyone in England involved in sport and physical activity. So it's there to help, you know, that amazing mix of people across a wide range of roles, settings and types of organizations to do what we've just been talking about, to help them support their kind of promotion and marketing needs. So if we can get going, David, into the presentation. So ultimately, why are we building the hub, or why do we have the hub? Is we'd like more people to be using digital marketing better to help grow participation and income within sports and physical activity. And again, that's across roles and organizations and settings. So that could be very much about helping local clubs and groups to get more members, to get more people involved, to have more groups, and to help them be more sustainable. It could also be about individuals who are self-employed. Lots of personal trainers, fitness instructors are self-employed, helping them find more clients, new clients, and again, helping their businesses to become sustainable and secure. It could also be about those of us that perhaps are employed within the world of sports and physical activity, supporting often small and medium-sized organizations or charities, not-for-profits, again, supporting their missions, which are very often around getting more people involved and supporting that sector to become sustainable and self-sustaining. So that's ultimately why the hub is here. Okay, so at the beginning of our journey, I think, like lots of you, I'm sure that you'll have heard people, again, whatever their roles, were talking about their need to promote better or engage new people, diversify their audience. But we did kick off the project by running some more detailed research. This is where David's going to have to be quite quick on the slide. So if you click forward, David, we're going to play a game of higher and lower to help explore some of the insight that we found. If we click on David, we'll get to our first card. So the first card is finding new participants is very or extremely important. So this is where, if you think that more than 50% of the people that responded to our survey said that finding new participants is very or extremely important, can you come in on the chat and say higher? Or if you think it's lower than 50%, say lower. So and this is where we had responses from over 1,200 people, again, across all the type of roles and settings that I've just been talking about. And very interestingly, we had really consistent results between volunteers from clubs, self-employed individuals, and people working in organizations. Lots of higher. So David, Brucey, Reader, if you could click us on, yeah, higher. 80% of people responding to this research said that finding new participants is very or extremely important. So on to our next card. Next bit of insight. Of those who responded, now that we've got our first card up and our first percentage, we're going to go off, this time we're going off the 80%, okay? So is it higher or lower than 80% of people who responded no more than a moderate amount about their participants, or it could be clients, their community, residents? So that's what we mean there, okay. This is great, thanks everyone for your involvement. Mostly lowers, a few hires. Okay, a couple more seconds. Okay, let's see what the scores are. 27%, so quite a lot lower. So this is really interesting. We found some really sort of really polarized results, and this is just one example here of people saying that finding new participants is really important, but at the same time saying they didn't really know much about them. Okay, on to the next card. Again, we're now going off the 27%, higher or lower of those who responded to our research have a plan for attracting new participants. Higher or lower than 27%. Well, Ashley's super quick. Higher, lower, lower, higher. Oh yeah, it's lower. Okay, thank you, Neil. Lower from Lisa, lower from Aidan. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay, David, the next score, 37%. So it's higher, but not a lot higher. It's still a minority. Similar kind of ballpark. All right, final card, David. So the higher or lower than 37%, the percentage of those people that responded to our research who have no digital marketing budget or less than £1,000. This is like a bit, it could be like a bit like a double, it's a double negative, isn't it, in some ways? So the higher the percentage, the less budget they have, okay? I think I've definitely seen a bit of a mix. Okay, David, and we have 81%. So a lot of people saying that they don't have that budget. And actually we had a lot of people saying, again, these kind of really interesting findings that were consistent across volunteers, self-employed individuals and people working in organizations, that basically they know that they have some really important needs around promotion and marketing. They really want to be finding new people or engaging new people, different people. But when it comes to having a plan or having budget or actually feeling confident, feeling like they or their organization have the skills, they actually responded kind of low confidence, low skill level, low budget. We found that really interesting. So moving on now, and thanks very much for getting involved. Thanks, David, for helping with that. If you like it, we see that we've really worked hard and continue to work hard to hopefully make the Digital Marketing Hub a solution, if you like, that bridges this sort of digital marketing or digital marketing skills gap to help upskill the entire sector, the entire workforce. And to do that, we're blending content from experts and expert organizations and bringing in, fantastic learning technology. So we have the Digital Marketing Institute involved, we have Google involved. We launched with support of Jake Humphrey, and also very early on, welcome Joe Wicks. And if you are part of the hub or want to be part of the hub going forwards, then there's full recordings available and some podcasts. So we've got some really exciting names and individuals. And the idea is that this combination will offer, again, this free resource, free support, free learning for people in a range of roles, settings, and organizations. So again, moving on, please, David. So basically kind of what's included. So we've, worked really hard to make sure that we have a range of resources and support as part of the Digital Marketing Hub. We have something called our Playbook. This is a certificated on-demand learning programs developed in partnership with the Digital Marketing Institute. They're a global organization, and we work with them to kind of tailor a course that sort of meets the needs that came through our research for people across sport and physical activity. It covers a broad range of digital marketing topics and skills, very much pitched at introductory into intermediate skills. We have a program of live webinars. So every week we have 1 or 2 webinars. Some of those are delivered by Google trainers. So our partnership with Google sees us offering them sort of dovetailing their live webinar support. We also source experts and also champions from across the sector. So recently we had Bourne Barracle, founder and chief executive of Our Parks, I think very well known within and across London. So he's not a digital marketing expert, he's not an agency, or however, the Our Parks journey very much has a strong digital thread, strong digital marketing story, and it's fantastic having Bourne come along and talk about how that has been really integral to Our Parks in the way that the whole organisation works, but also at that local level, the parkers getting active, and that's that story, for example. We have peer-to-peer opportunities, so people can get in touch through discussions and forums, and we've got some exciting new ideas to increase that in the new year. So we have launched, we have a lot in place, but we're working hard to grow that. So kind of watch this space, look out for our announcements in the new year. Again, the other part of our relationship or partnership with Google is access to one-to-one mentoring. So this is where you can literally sign up, and within 2 days you hear back from Google. You can select the topic that you want to get some help in, and it isn't just to do with Google topics. It can be anything to do with digital marketing. Their Google trainers, their Google mentors are individuals that are actively involved in and are experts in digital marketing in all areas. And we have some additional benefits. In some cases, people are a bit unsure about maybe how to get started, or that there can sometimes be costs involved. There are lots of ways to do things totally free, but sometimes people may want to explore ads, for example. And so you can, through our benefits, you can see where you can go and get a bit of a small grant from Google, and some other opportunities there, just to discounts, and to make it easier or cheaper to get started, or just to explore perhaps some other areas of digital marketing before you, at that stage when you may not know if you want to invest in it. So we're trying to think about all the different things that individuals and groups and businesses might need to support and enable, if like, their digital marketing journey, and to go from having it as something that's important, but without the plan, the resource, or the skills, and trying to tick those boxes. And then the next slide highlights the different topics. So David, if we can click on, yeah. And so digital marketing, I think, often is thought of, as a very sort of, as in a professional sense. So some people within sport and physical activity, but obviously beyond as well, they will be marketeers by trade. That will be their area of work. Within the context of sport and physical activity, it's very much about understanding the different ways that you can promote and engage and reach people, and also market, if that, or develop your marketing, if that's the language or terms that you use. But we're looking at things that go across content, social media, websites and metrics, search, or search engine optimization. It's often abbreviated to SEO. That's basically when people search on Google or Bing, that kind of thing, wanting your offer, your website, your information to appear higher up so people can find you more easily. And something that's a bit more traditional is email. So these are sort of very, these are the areas that marketing experts will cover and talk about. And again, we make sure that we've got some of that certificated training, but also a range of resources, live webinars, experts, and people from within the sector that can help bring this to life in a way that sort of really meets people's needs across the sector. And so just at this stage, looking at those 5 areas of digital marketing, again, on the chat, if you could just let me know which, maybe you can choose one, it's maximum 2, but maybe there's a top one that really stands out to you as an area of promotion or digital marketing that you think, yes, this is an area that I would like more support in, or like to know more about. Just be interested to see what you share. So let's see what comes through on the chat. Social media. Thanks very much, Darren and Diane. Social media. Thank you. Okay, lots of social. Website and metrics. Thanks, Ashley. Content. Yeah, content and social, we're finding often go close together. Social media and search. Thanks, Costin. Let's give it a couple more seconds. So we find that social media definitely comes out top. I would say through our research and consistently, but some of the other areas do come up. We do find that content, I think, and web is the next most important, but there's lots on search. So we've had some webinars delivered by Google that have been very popular around like Google My Business and the kind of the business profiles that you can populate. So you don't even need a website to actually get your group or your business or your organization, your club out there online and people finding you via Google, for example. Okay, thanks everyone. So you click on David. So the place to go if you want to register and start your journey with the Digital Marketing Hub is digital.simspa.co.uk. So obviously a number of you have heard about this before, which is fantastic. But whether it's you or the people that you know, your colleagues, the community, digital.simspa.co.uk is where you can go to find out more and you can register. The next few slides, David, if you just want to just kind of click, I think the next few are just a few screenshots. Yeah, so just kind of hold these for a couple seconds and we'll go to the next three. So there's been we've got over 3,700 people are now enrolled on the hub. There's room for many more. So you're all welcome, the organizations you're part of, the people that you engage with, the volunteers that perhaps you know, or the workforce, you're all very welcome. So we've had a really good response. We had people responding, very pleased to see people who enjoyed the launch webinar with Jake. We had Chris Norfield from London Sports and Vaughan as well, were part of the launch event along with Google and BMI. We had a webinar with Joe Wicks. We've had people kind of authoring blogs and their own content. If we click on, thank you, David. We've had some people, talking about, really enjoyed the webinars. Some people talking, yes, we can do that, Christian, absolutely. Someone here is saying, listen to Joe Wicks and straight away they've gone and done something different. And they've got one new client and more people asking questions. So that's something, in some cases, there's an immediate benefit and reaction that people are benefiting from. And then the next one here, we've got a lady who, an example of some of our users who are starting to engage with the hub across a few different settings. So on the next slide, you can see there's a lady who's posted on Twitter about how she's taking part in the webinars and she's taking part in the mentoring as well, and finding it really, really valuable. Hi, I'm still seeing the same slide, David. Is it clicked on for you? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so examples there. So this lady, Louise, has been, she watched the webinar with Vaughan. She's also got involved in the one-to-one mentoring. So some people are now seeing opportunities where they can sort of they can create their own sort of journey or kind of blend of support. So you might like the idea of accessing some mentoring and going to the webinars like Louise, or you might like to access one of our e-learning modules, or you just might want to go and pick up some of the resources, or listen to one of the podcasts from the webinar with Joe Wicks, where he talks about what it was like getting started and his top tips for people that might want to be sort of maybe thinking about their social media or looking to kind of feel motivated and get some ideas to take that forwards. In terms of how we hope people, again, across different roles and settings and organizations can take the Digital Marketing Hub and really get great value from it. So if we can click forward, please, David. So I guess this is more for those of you that may be in an organization. So it could be you, your staff and your teams. There's opportunities here that we think are of great value for anyone in sort of a professional setting. We know that, yes, there are some people that have dedicated marketing or communication roles, but we know that lots of people also wear sort of multiple hats within organizations. So you can use the Digital Marketing Hub to signpost your team, staff, to get professional development through the certificated course by the Digital Marketing Institute. And that will then allow people to actually become an associate member with a global institute. You can get the mentoring from Google with digital marketing experts, and ultimately enhance the skills and capabilities that your colleagues, teams and organization have to support digital marketing. So we think there's some great value there. If you then click forward, David, then we think there's also great value in terms of the clubs or the members, or that, if you like, that wider workforce and the community that you may be part of or engaging or supporting in your role. So everything is free. Once you're on, everything is free. And some of these things, if you were to, for example, look to access some of the training that we've got, it's sort of multiple hundreds of pounds worth of support if it was available commercially. So it's free 24/7. So people can really, it's really flexible. People can pick and choose what they would like. We do have these case studies from our sector. So we have Born, we've got, we had a lady called Julia Prasaru from a volleyball club talking about how it worked in for increasing membership in her club. We had Jacqueline Hooton. So she runs her own business. It's called Her Garden Gym. She is a very vocal 58-year-old personal trainer who trains clients face-to-face, trains clients online. She is on Instagram, and actually since she spoke to us a few weeks ago, has gone from 20 to 60,000 followers and had a reel video reach over 5 million views. And she is pro-aging, healthy aging, healthy activity, and she's fantastic. Jacqueline Hooton, Her Garden Gym. I strongly recommend that you follow her. She's a fantastic advocate for anyone looking to kind of go on their social media or digital marketing journey within the world of sport and physical activity. And ultimately, so yeah, it's an example here of there's like-minded and supportive network by the people that you meet or the people that you hear about, and we want to help, you know, clubs and that workforce grow and ultimately increase membership, or, you know, kind of increase that community engagement. And actually, if you just go forward, David, on the, so this is the registration sign-up link, digital.simspa.co.uk. On towards the bottom of that page, we do have a partner toolkit download. So this is really for anyone, again, whether you're an individual, a club, a group, an organization. This is a toolkit that gives you more information about Digital Marketing Hub, some downloadable like images, some copy that you might want, you can pop into your website. If you feel there's something here of value, again, for colleagues, teams, departments, or the community, the workforce, residents, people in your area, then please feel free to share it. Because again, it's a free resource for anyone in sport and physical activity across England. And I will just drop that link in the chat as well. So I think, David, that is my presentation. Thank you very much, everyone, for engaging with the polls and the chat. I'll drop in the link now. And if you do have any questions, please, please feel free to ask away.
Ollie, thanks for that. Really interesting stuff. I've dipped into it myself, and I have to say, you know, I was pleasantly surprised by, you know, not being a particular follower of Joe Wicks, maybe not his demographic, but I did listen to the Joe Wicks session, and I thought he gave really good value for that session. And again, what I'd recommend to anybody listening who hasn't listened to it is to, you know, if you want to, go and listen to that. And he really does put effort into that talk, doesn't he? I don't know if you listened to that one, Ollie.
No, I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and I actually do quite like Joe, and I've got one of his books and have followed him on Instagram for a while. But I thought he was excellent, and we had a lot of really great engagement from that. So you can watch the webinar, and we'll soon just be dropping in a couple podcasts. If you don't want, I think the webinar's about an hour. If you haven't quite got an hour, we've got, I think, 2 10-minute podcasts that we're going to drop into the hub as well, if you want to sort of get the best bits. But yeah, that was a great session. Yeah, Born session last week, great engagement too. So we have got some speakers that are kind of very London centric, and obviously, you know, a mix beyond that. So yeah, glad you enjoyed it, David.
Yeah, one of the interesting things you picked up in your presentation there was that many of us do have these multiple hats we have to wear, isn't it? So
yes,
you know, you might be employed to do one particular role, but and particularly because we work in small organizations, you're almost expected to put these multiple hats on, and using digital marketing is one of these hats we've had to acquire in the last, you know, half a decade. And some of us need some support around that. So you're quite right in that, isn't it? You know, we've got these multiple hats, even though we're not dedicated on this, we do need to upskill in these areas.
I think so, and that's certainly what we found through the research that we've done linked to the project. And also, I think, yeah, personally, I'm much more active on kind of social media and thinking about promotion and marketing. And I think it is something, certainly from a, you know, a workforce point of view, there's always an element of either wanting to, identify different groups or new groups of people, or building on engagement, or whether it's workforce to workforce, workforce to community, residents, participants, clients. There's always that kind of communication, community. And I'd say digital marketing, a big part of digital marketing, and certainly kind of content and social media, is that type of activity. And it naturally builds upon those workforce roles as well. So, as you know, all my career in sport and physical activity has been involved from a workforce point of view. And I've been a volunteer coach over 25 years of volunteer kind of coaching experience. So I do think it is something that people with those multiple hats, and anyone who's sort of in that workforce role or setting, it is it's an area that you can actually develop, and it really helps and supports the work that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Ollie, how long is this? I mean, how long is this funded for by sport? How long are people can expect this to see this to be around as a feature? Do you know that?
We have so it was funded for a year. So it's available until sort of, I guess, late spring next year. So that's what we definitely can confirm. It may. Yeah, that's where it is right now. So definitely up until I think May time next year, and then after that we'll have to see. But yeah, so far the engagement's been positive. So who knows? Hopefully it will be something that people find great value in, and we can continue to keep it going longer than that. But definitely between now and early summer, late spring next year.
Yeah, great. I mean, so I can see that Ian's just registered, which is fantastic. I mean, my advice to people would be to dip in there, have a look around, have a feel of it, and then feedback. I mean, and give feedback to obviously yourselves. I'd imagine you've got channels to which people can give you
absolutely
feedback.
Yeah.
And also towards a London Sport as well, and we can sort of collectively sort of feed that back to you as well. Have a go at it. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, David. Yeah, thanks, Ian, and again, thanks everyone for your getting involved in the session. Really hope it's useful, and wish you all the best.
Yeah, and just a reminder, the slides and everything will be up online afterwards if people want to get access to that later. Right, folks, just the last 5 minutes now. I've got a little update to give you on some potential funding that could be coming our way. So some of you will be aware that there's a TIF funding. Some of you are aware of that, which has been running for the last sort of 2 years. It's going to evolve into become the Sport England Together Fund. And what we do know is that Sport England have indicated that they want to broaden that Together Fund and what it can apply for. And one area which they want to broaden it to is around the area of workforce and teams, and particularly around resilience of this. So unless you're aware, the funding is given to active partnerships, and we are one of those who've received it in the past, and then it's up to active partnerships to distribute it to recipients in their region. So in this next round of funding, there is this potential of workforce funding. Currently, it stands, we have the ability to give up to £10,000 per project, but there is the possibility of us giving more money to a single organisation and entrusting them to distribute as well. So what the ask is here is for you to have a little think about this. If we're successful, so we have to apply to Sport England for the whole funding, and then if we're successful, then we are in ability to distribute that. So what my ask is, if you can have a think about if this is extended to workforce, do you have opportunities, avenues which you would like to see funded? If we are successful, then we will learn by early February, March next year, so not too far away. So yeah, ideas. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this link into the chat, and if you do have any thoughts, doesn't have to be now, because if you make sure you open the link and have the form open on your browser, then you'll have an opportunity to respond to that today or tomorrow. The form will remain open for about 5 days, something like that. So again, if you are able to put any information into that link around potential workforce funding for next year for yourselves, it'd be really appreciated. And I shall put that in the link. Well, I'm just going to do that now. So if you bear with me, I'm just going to copy and paste that. There we go. And I'm just going to put that in. So you should be able to now see in the chat that form, which just asks a few simple questions about potential ideas for workforce funding in the spring of next year. So please do click on the link now and open it, because once the session ends today, the chat function will close, and it isn't on the chat function isn't on the catch-up notes later on. So do make sure you open that link now. Well, that's it, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you found the sessions useful. Please do share it with any colleagues who you think might find it useful. Come back to the website. If you're not in the Workforce Network and you've come here via another means, do join the Workforce Network, because you'll get updates as well as this network session. You'll get the newsletter, and you'll get other updates around workforce issues in the region. So do join that if you haven't done that. The link is there. Yeah, do those things if you can. I appreciate your time and listening skills today. I just want to thank Sophie and Ollie for the presentations, and I shall say, yeah, do join us for the next one. And thanks for joining us.
David.
Yes. Hello.
Several of us can't open that link. It's not giving us permissions.
Oh.
It says you do not have permission to view or respond to this form.
Wow, you've got me there. Bear with me just 1 second. Let me have a look at that. So what I'm going to do is maybe I've not opened it up. Thanks for telling me. I'm just going to yeah, what I shall do, everybody, is I'll send the link round to the network members, so that you will have the ability to contribute to that after this session. So maybe that's the best thing I'll do, rather than delaying people here. So I'll just check the permissions on that, and I'll send the link round to people that have joined the network. So hopefully you can do that. So yeah, have a great afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and see you all soon. Thanks so much. Bye now.